Hello, I am Carrie Cannon, and welcome to the Awakened Life Expo. I am being joined right now by Tony Damien. And Tony, in 1982, was working as a laborer and had an entire truck unload itself onto him, which led him to have to explore different career choices. And it led him to going back to school and going into engineering robotics, but it also led him to exploring different healing modalities so that he could figure out how to heal his body, how to heal his life. So right now we are being joined by Tony, and thank you so very much, Tony, for joining us here on the Awakened Life Expo. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here with us.
Thank you, Carrie.
So tell us, that's pretty dramatic. So tell us from the start, how did you get involved with this work? After that happened, what did you do?
Well, you know, being a laborer and I had actually 3 discs that were pretty much blown out. And after 3 years of traction and painkillers and anti-inflammatories, the doctors basically told me that there's no surgery that they can do because of the injury. So I was going to be paralyzed from the waist down and in a wheelchair within a year or 2. And I walked out. I couldn't accept that. I just had my 3rd daughter, and I had a lot of life still to live. I had a lot of plans, and it was just unacceptable. I didn't accept it. And so that started really my healing quest. And I looked into alternative medicines. I started with acupuncture, and I went through acupuncture for 3 times a week almost for a full year. And what that did was all the radiating pains everywhere and aches and everything started disappearing, and it got down to where the injury really was. And it couldn't go any further than that. And by chance, I happened to meet an American Indian woman who was a Reiki practitioner, and she was telling me about Reiki. I was actually sitting with my wife in a pottery class. And, you know, so she told me where her studio was. I went to the studio, got on the table, had no idea what she was going to do, and she starts doing Reiki with me. An hour session went by, and I got off the table, and for the first time in nearly 3.5 years, Carrie, I felt absolutely no pain. And so I kept going back to her. And, you know, it would last almost a full week, week and a half, and I'd go back. And I did this for several months. And one day she says to me, she says, you know, Tony, you're a natural to this. You do Qigong, you do Tai Chi, you know, you teach guided meditations. This is a natural thing for you. You have a positive energy. You should look into finding a master teacher and learning it yourself. So I did. And I started working on myself. And what happened was over the next year and a half, the pain started subsiding. The biggest problem I had was the breakages. I had ribs broken and discs blown apart. They wouldn't fuse because anytime you move, anything that would fuse would break again. And so I was actually teaching myself how not to move, how to stay in certain positions. I went through traction originally, you know, for 4 months. So I knew how to stay still. And the pain subsided. And after about a year and a half, I was back to doing physical labor work. And, you know, basically I was looking at a career change because I didn't think I could do it. And I ended up going back to school and learning computers and going into teaching. I taught computer science and math for nearly 6 years. And then I went into engineering. And what happened is, you know, I cured myself and I started my own practice. And I had my own Reiki business. I was up in Connecticut, central Connecticut. And I also had a side business called Pets in Pain, because I worked with the Audubon Society and rehab of birds of prey. So I was used to dealing with animals. So people would come in and they'd bring their cat, you know, and I'd work on them and I'd work on their cat. And it was a very good business. And over time, I had a lot of clients who came to my classes and I was doing attunements, attuning them to Reiki so they can heal themselves. And I taught them that I'm not a healer. There's no such thing as a healer. We're the healer of ourselves. If we want to be healed, we will be. You go to a televangelist, they touch you, you're healed. You know, it's not the magic of the televangelist. It's the magic of the individual. And this is what I taught people. Well, one day this woman came in who had a lot of issues going on. And within a week or 2, we cleared them. And she said to me, she says, you know, Tony, you ought to write a book. You know, you need to put this down. You're dealing with one-on-one. You need to be teaching classes. And I had started thinking about that. And I created a manuscript, and for the next 10 years, you know, I'd pull it out and write it and put it back. And I finally got to the point where I published back 4 years ago. My first book was all about healing yourself and the whole steps and I have guided meditations to it. So it's a whole thing of, you know, how the process works, how to get out of your own mind, how to take yourself away from yourself, getting into the inner you and clearing your mind and not listening to what other people are speaking over your head or even what you're speaking over your own head. It's becoming the master of your thoughts. And so that pretty much leads me to where I am today.
Wow.
Any questions?
Yeah, pretty interesting story. So tell me a little bit. So along that journey, it was more than just Reiki, and it was more than just you know, doing the acupuncture and stuff like that. There had to be some level of, holy crap, my life is done now. And you must have had to drag yourself out of that. Can you tell us, because there are people all over the place that are dealing with that. And, you know, people don't necessarily try alternative medicine until they've tried everything else. So, and the same with you, you know, you had tried, you know, you had started in traction and you're like, all right, I need something more. So what was it that gave you the internal fortitude to decide to sort of take control of yourself and your healing? What was your, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. What's that? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, Carrie. For 3 years straight, I was on every painkiller that they had. I'd go from one to the next, and I was on pure morphine. It even bothers me to say the word. I was basically an idiot, you know, sitting there with my wife stuffing Jell-O in my face is all I remember of 1987. And, you know, it got to the point where when I was told that I was going to be crippled, something clicked inside of me and I went, no, that's not acceptable. I took myself off of all those medications. I had to wean myself off because the doctors wouldn't do it. I walked out on them. And it was a resolve, too bold to doubt in myself, that I was going to heal. So really what the catalyst to it was, or what the method was getting out of my head. I did meditation and I wasn't very good at it. You know, I had to do guided meditation because I couldn't sit lotus style, you know, by myself and just meditate. I learned how. And what I did was I tried to get into my inner self. And what I found was an energy in there, which I learned doing Qigong and karate and Tai Chi, that I have this life force energy in me. I am the master of my own body. I'm not going to be told by anybody what my destiny is going to be because it was just unacceptable. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I need a miracle if anything's going to happen. And I actually went through life from the point that I was attuned as a Reiki 1 practitioner working on myself that I was going to heal. And there's 2 words that people have to get out of their vocabulary, and that's fear and doubt. Fear that it's not going to happen for whatever reason, or doubting that what you're doing is right. You know, if you go to a practitioner, a Reiki practitioner, and they do a beautiful job on you, and then the practitioner says to you, I hope you feel better. Guess what?
Yeah, it's doubt.
Do you think it worked? Those are negatives. And what I found, and it was at a very early time in this quest, that the biggest problems are using words like, or phrases like, I hope, I wish, I pray. They're like saying, it'd be nice if they happen, but I don't really think it will. And it goes back to doubt and fear. Doubt that it's not going to happen because you didn't do it right. Fear that, you know, what the doctor told. When a doctor tells a patient that they have a year to live, Carrie, it's staggering the number of people that live a year to the day that they're told. Wow. Unless they're a mother or a grandmother, then they wait to the holiday. Do you ever notice that the biggest time people pass away is Christmas? The Christmas season is the biggest, and it's after Christmas or right on Christmas Eve because they want to see everyone one last time. If they have that kind of resolve internally to hold on for that amount of time, and I researched this for a long time to make sure I knew what I was talking about. If they can hold on to that to see everybody and then pass, well, if they can last another week, a month, why not a year or 10 years?
Right.
It's because you need to believe that you can. and know that you can with no doubt and fear. And that really is the biggest thing. Because in mainstream medicine, when we're told something by a professional, by a doctor, we don't doubt it. We take them to be the end all be all. What they're telling us is the absolute truth. You have to have that surgery. You have to have that medicine, or you will not and cannot heal. And we believe it without any doubt or fear because they're professionals. Mainstream medicine works symptomatically. So they see, okay, you got this symptom and you got these symptoms. Here, take these, and here, take those, and call me in a week and let's see where you're at. Because they're throwing things at symptoms. They never, ever, ever go with the root causes. And because of that, you end up with side effects, because now you're going to 3 different doctors or 4 different doctors because you doubt the other one, and they're all giving you different prescriptions, and now you got all these interactions going. For a long period of time, I was at my mother's place. She lived in this retirement community, and I got to know a lot of the people there, and I would do guided meditations. I do what's called medical qigong. So it's moving energy very gently for the elderly and for the handicapped, and I've developed it over the past 25 years. So I'd have all these people together, you know, all these grandmas, grandpas, and we'd be moving energy around. And it took inventory. I said, you know, give me a list of all the medications you're on. Because there were some people that had some serious issues. I mean, serious issues. And I found that over 70% of them were taking more than 14 pills a day of one kind or another from at least 4 different doctors. And some of these interactions, as many as 12 or 13 were red flagged as critically serious, like lethal.
Right.
You know, so is that where mainstream medicine is at? Yeah, pretty much so. You watch any TV commercial, you'll see it.
Oh, yeah.
You'll feel better, but however, you're going to bleed and die, you know. So it's the thing of, if you're going to heal yourself, if you want to heal yourself, you have to believe that you have the power to do that. And you also have to have that resolve of no fear of what you're doing and no doubt. You have to trust gut instinct. See, there's 3 different ways of living through life. You can live through your brain, all right? So if you live through your brain of logic, you're going to outthink yourself. You always end up halfway down that road and go, I knew I should have went the other way. That's the way it works. Or you live through the emotions of the heart. Do we even need to talk about that? It's always about the other person. You're always the last person because, oh, it can't hurt so-and-so and da-da-da-da. So you have to think with your gut. In my first book, I discovered there's another chakra. I call it chakra 2.5. Right in between is the gut, the hara. All of the yoga people out there will go, yeah, the hara. The gut is an entity unto itself, but it's also an energy center. We don't have animal instinct anymore. We're not in a food chain. You know, if the tiger's chasing us, you know, back in the day, the early days, you had to run. But as soon as you were safe, oh, guess what? You go back into rest and digest mode, not fight or flight. We don't live that way anymore. We live in a fight or flight world all the time. You only have those 2 modes. So if your nervous system is in fight or flight, guess what happens? You're constantly nervous. You're constantly stressed out. Everything you eat, no matter how healthy it is turned to sugar to run. Well, guess what? There's no tiger chasing you. Why is our country so overweight? It's stress.
Right.
What can cause that kind of stress, that people would be stressed out all day long? Well, how about a child that's in school, right, who is now having to take tests to pass? How about a teenager who just got their license? How about a toxic relationship? How about a toxic job? How about not making enough money? How about a kid who's in college, who's going 4 years to learn the best job that he can to make the most money he can, only to find out he's in a society, or already knowing it, that doesn't have any jobs? You know, we live in a stress mode. So how do we remove the stress is the secret. And the way to do that is to get out of your own head. You know, no matter how stressful things are, there has to be a point when you have to say, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. I'm going to accept everything as it is. You know, they say that if you're stressed out, you live in the past. You know, if you're worrying all the time, you're living in the future. Both of those don't exist. They're only in the mind.
Right.
The only time that exists is the here and now. And that's the whole thing, is living in the here and now. And if you're doing that, then you look at everything and say, I don't have any money to pay the bills. Okay, what's for dinner? You know, and actually putting it aside, because now you can switch off from that fight or flight mode and actually go into rest and digest and be able to get that diet to work for you, or the exercise program to actually work for you.
Right.
And, you know, and that's really the secret of it. And we don't know how to do that as a society. So much so that I actually wrote another book, my second book, which I just put out 2 months ago, is all about, it's a workbook. And it's healing yourself. It's a self-healing workbook. That's a questionnaire. And like what I'm talking about right now, I go through it, soup to nuts, page after page, and you write it down. You put your name in the front and you write it down. Are you stressed out? La, 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 la. Then I go through what to do with that to create a positive affirmation to change that. And then a meditation to actually get into yourself and go through each of the chakras and clear them, and doing it yourself. And when you get that kind of accomplishment and you go back, and I tell everyone, go back at a certain section, go back in the beginning and reread where you're at and put a line through it if it's changed, and put what it is now. And people are amazed to find out that within a month, their mindset has changed. It's all about the power of the mind. That's the only thing that you need, is the power of the mind. You know, why don't I have any broken discs now? Why do I have full mobility of my spine when I'm not supposed to? It's because I was told by the end-all be-all people that it can't be fixed. But I didn't believe it. See, I didn't accept that as being an end-all be-all.
Right.
You know, we have miracles that happen all the time, Carrie. And what is the definition of a miracle? It's something that takes place that we don't have an answer for. Does that mean it's mystical and magical? No, we just don't have an answer for it. And that's the power of the mind.
Yeah.
That's the whole secret to the success of this.
So I have a question. So first of all, I can really connect with what you're saying, because the work that I do that's not when I'm doing the expo is I actually command consciousness on behalf of other people. And it's funny that you were saying, you know, I hope, you know, like that kind of puts stuff in the way. And when I tell people that I command consciousness, people are like, no, you can't do that. It's not possible. And, you know, all of that. So it's people's own stuff totally gets in the way. And, you know, what the perspective from which I do it is sort of the superconscious mind, where we're all one. So it's as easy for me as walking across the room, because it's something that I have attuned myself to, that is a natural part of, you know, who I am, and we all have access to that. But it's, again, it's going back to what you're saying, and to me, it's not mystical. It's just an elevated perspective that one works from. And I think that that's where Reiki comes from, and all of that too. Tell me a little bit. So you were talking about how you could feel the life force energy in you. Now, I'm a Reiki master, and I've been one for like 20 years. And but I never really felt like within myself something different, or something that where it was coming from. I always just accepted that it was, you know, that I was being open to allowing that energy to flow through me. Can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to sort of access that for yourself? Like, and I know you talk about the medical qigong. So, and I don't know if it relates to that, but if you could, you know, help our listeners understand how maybe they can tune into that or access that in themselves, that would be awesome.
Okay, actually, it's a meditation that I haven't written yet that goes along with the book. And I used to go out every night, especially if it was a full moon, bark at the moon, and I would do qigong. I would just raise energy, ground myself. It's all about grounding. You know that we don't ground ourselves because we wear shoes. So if you walk through the woods with shoes on, with rubber soles, guess what? You're not really grounding yourself. Going out barefoot and standing on the ground is a physical, electrical grounding, and that's part of our problem. You know, we say, I'm going to ground myself right here. Well, you are metaphysically, but physically, you're still floating. You're this potential energy that's not very good. So I used to go out barefoot, stand in the grass, and do qigong. And so this one night, I really wanted to get in touch with my inner self, which is what I call the alchemist within. That's the book title. And the alchemist within is our inner self. And as Deepak Chopra would say, it's the seer behind the eyes that's viewing the life. So it's our soul, it's our consciousness. As you know, that's what you're all about. And so I'm out there one night and I'm doing Qigong, and I grounded myself and I felt very energetic. So I started doing Reiki on myself over each of the chakras. And I'm saying, what is wrong with me? Why am I not connecting to myself? I had a revelation, and 95% of Reiki practitioners do not do this. When you finish a session, do you break away the energy?
Yeah,
Right. Do you ever break away the energy from yourself?
No, I never thought to do that.
Now listen to this. So I'm standing in a set place, and I'm doing Qigong. I'm doing Reiki. You don't even have to know how to do these things. Just ground yourself and really get into your mind and think about what the issue is. I have a pain here, or whatever it is, and see that pain and try to put energy there. Not try, do. Put energy there. See it gone. And then closing your eyes and taking one step backwards and still feel your energy presence in front of you break away from yourself. I am no longer connected to the past. You are the past. All the way down to the ground. When I did that, I felt a weight lift off me.
Really?
Yeah. And it was a revelation. And I started, back in those days, this is 20 years ago, there was no internet really to use to find anything. So, I had to go to the library, and I'm talking to people in Reiki circles. And I'm also a practicing Wiccan. So I'd go there and talk to my Wiccan friends who were all Reiki practitioners. And they're all looking at me like the RCA Victrola dog. What are you talking about? So no, I had a circle going. And, we're raising energy, and we talk about raising energy and throwing it to the universe, for the good of all, and the highest and good intentions of everything with harm to none. And I said, now, everyone, close your eyes. And I went through that whole thing of feel that energy within you. Feel the things that are those, what I call dis-eases, whatever it might be. And feel them there. And put them into the energy that's right there where you're standing. Now, take a giant step backwards without opening your eyes and envision that three-dimensional object there. I call it a holographic imagery. That hologram of you with the issue, and see the issue. I see the pain in my back. Reiki that issue. Reiki yourself by creating a smaller version of you, or the energy that's in front of you, and now break it away. I am no longer connected to you. What's yours was yours, and what's mine now is mine. And there the two shall meet and break away. And we did this. And it was amazing that 5 of the people there who had some chronic issues going on, there's enough issues to start a magazine. They didn't have them anymore. I mean, they were gone. One of them had colitis and a couple of issues with her bowels and whatnot. And she says, Tony, the pain's gone. What did you do? I said, no, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I'm not a healer. You're not. You're the healer of you. I'm the healer of me. I tell people, I am the healer of myself. I am not the healer of others. But I am, as a Reiki practitioner, the facilitator of healing in others until they learn to heal themselves. And that is the alchemist within. The alchemist within is your inner voice. We don't listen to that inner voice all the time, but that little voice in your head isn't an angel and a devil sitting on your shoulder. No, that's your consciousness, your conscious awareness talking to you. We don't listen. It's like people who pray. I pray all the time. I pray and I pray and I pray and I never get an answer. And I said, do you ever shut up and listen? and by that, and I said it in a funny way, I says, what if just the intention that you had to say that prayer, the answer was in front of you and you never saw it because you were waiting to do, 13 Hail Marys or whatever. And we do that, and I'm just picking on that for the moment, but it's with anything. It's like, I got to take this entire bottle of pills before I can heal, or I've got to do all, and it's not so. You know, and that's not a prescription I'm making, but it's what we believe. If we believe it to be so, it will be. That's the law of attraction. Whatever you put in your head gets magnified and sent back to you, whether it's something you want or don't want. Our biggest bad guy, besides fear and doubt, is obsessive thought. We obsess. We obsess more than any, other creatures don't do that. You know, we don't have animal instinct. And because of that, we don't know how to get in touch with nature. When we walk into the woods, every tree knows we're there. Every tree is connected to the other tree. It's like, what was that movie where all the trees are connected? I can't think of it. Avatar. And, you know, every animal that's next to the trees knows what the trees know. Everyone knows we're here in the woods. We have no idea that they're there because we're not connected. We don't use our gut instincts. Now, this chakra 2.5 is connected to all of our senses. And this is my whole theory, is that everything we see, smell, taste, touch, feel, just know, is put into the gut immediately. You know, if we're in the car and there's an accident that happens, the gut takes over. You tighten up, you slam on the brakes, it's not even you. Automatically, you see a fire going, oh my God. And, you know, all these things are rushing around, and all of a sudden it's fight or flight, it's survival, it's whatever. And all these things kick in because of this gut instinct or this non-animal instinct that we have. So it's really training that to trust what you feel. When you work on somebody, all right, when you have someone in front of you, do you follow an entire protocol or do you trust your gut? You know,
I'll generally just find out what their issue is, and then I'll just roll with it.
Yeah. There are people that are so obsessive in their thoughts and so wrapped into this negative that they don't even introduce themselves by name. It's like, hi, I'm Mary with the dot, 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 dot. And they go on with this repertoire of all these diseases that they know by heart in alphabetical order because they have OCD as well. And, you know, they truly believe this is them. I said, why are you identifying yourself with that? I get these people, and as soon as they start talking, I said, you know what, come in for a session. I don't even want to know what's wrong with you. And I'll scan them, and I'll pick up on things, and I don't say a word, and I just do my thing. They go, well, you know, did you get them over here? And you know, so don't worry about it. Everything is covered, you know, and they find that it is. And so it's working on people without even knowing. I had practitioners that I taught. You know, I've probably attuned about 75 people. And I wouldn't attune any of them to master because, you know, it's like there's only 3 that I did. And, you know, they were so concerned of where their hands were. They weren't even in tune with what they were doing. And I would do some work. I'd show them how to do something. He said, oh, Mr. Damien, you didn't leave your hands there for 3 minutes. It was only 2.5 or whatever. And it's like, no, people, you know, and this is what's wrong with us. This is why we can't heal. Is because we think that there's a protocol. The protocol is forget the protocol. Trust your gut, trust what you feel, trust what you already know, and believe it. You know, the 2 things in healing is know that you can heal. Bigger than that, believe that you can heal. You can know that you can heal yourself. You're a Reiki master, but do you believe it? Here's one. I spent probably 3 years polling people, whether they were clients or whether I was chatting with them. I was into the internet before the internet was even around. We had these little green screens, you know, with the telephone on the thing, with the modems. And I'd say, hey, do you believe in angels? And I never got an automatic answer, ever. They would say, I think so. Yeah, I'd like to believe they're there. I'd say, wait a minute, you're Roman Catholic. I was Roman Catholic. I believe in angels. Why don't you believe in angels? Well, I'd like to believe they're there, but I don't really know. And this is what it's all about. It's like, if you can't even believe in something that you're supposed to believe in, all right? If you're religion or whatever, if you're just spiritual, and you believe that there's angels, but you doubt it, is it because you haven't seen it, so therefore you don't know? Or is it that you're going along with your nodding and grunting? And by doing that, there's no conviction.
Right.
Can you heal yourself? No. You can't even wrap your mind around whether you believe in an angel or not. How can you even look at mystical, magical energies moving? You know, it's really.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when we're talking about all of this, I actually had a different question in mind, and I'm gonna kind of
I'm sorry, I talked
exit
too much.
in a different direction. So when we're like working with all of these energies and all of this, and we're sort of experiencing, little breakthroughs. So I know for myself personally, I will, if I have a question about something, I'll just meditate and ask, and generally the question or the answer comes even before I can finish my sentence, like
Yeah.
it'll come like as I'm fully formulating the sentence, and I'll get it. And then I'm not sure. So I'm like, wait, was that it? And I'll ask it again. I'll get the same thing. So, but I don't know if everybody's as clear, like how clearly it comes, those answers come to people. Is there a way that people can sort of sink down or tune in if they're asking those questions? Because I fully believe that all of the gifts that I have, which are like way outside of the box, I sort of, I don't know, was granted, or whatever you want to call it. I didn't even develop them. I feel like they were just sort of given, because of getting into myself, meditating and asking, like a higher power or whatever, what I can do in certain situations. And then I started to understand that I could actually, we all have the power to, wield the consciousness of, our conscious reality. And I get into, quantum mechanics and things like that. And I try to understand, okay, how is this possible? And, time and all sorts of things. I'm like always reading like science books for the layperson to try and understand why is it that I can do this. But that's kind of getting off. So how can people get into a state where they can be receptive? Because I know people want to be receptive to the answers, and I know not everybody is of clear mind. So how can one get into a state of clarity so that they can receive those answers, so that they can do things like heal themselves?
Right. Well, when I wrote the first book, I created 3 meditations, and the first one was called Master of Your Thoughts, and then the second one was called Creating Sacred Space, and then the third one got into actually synchronizing the chakras. And being the master of your thoughts really means getting out of your head. You said something that I found funny, and I just want to throw this at you. When the answer came to you as you're thinking of it, why did you ask the second time?
For clarity, okay. to make sure I wasn't making it up. Yeah.
Oh, really? You
Yes.
doubted it? Wow.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's funny when I've worked with people that couldn't grasp things, like working with Reiki. I don't really know if that's working or not. I spent the time, Carrie, of building a Reiki table, big, huge table, so I could fit any size model on there. And from the ceiling, I had pull chains, okay? There were retractable pull chains with crystals on them. So I had a crystal over every chakra. And as I'd work on them, I'd say, now let's concentrate on your heart chakra. And I would work on their heart chakra 6 inches above it or so, and I'd pull away. And I'd say, now concentrate. And I had little colored lights. So I had all the different colors to the chakras shining on the little crystals, and the crystal would start moving very gently. I said, that's the subtle energy of your heart chakra. It's a foot away from you, and it's spinning clockwise. That means it's balanced. Oh, how does that work? I said, it's the energy. All crystals are quartz. The planet is made of quartz. It resonates with frequencies. If you put an electricity to it, it produces sound. If you put a sound to it, it produces electricity. If you put, all these different things of heat and light and stuff. And so they get so fascinated with it that I would actually use a pendulum over them, and then I'd give them the pendulum. I would make them. I'd hand make these things, and I'd give it to them. And we'd sit there talking. They didn't care about what was wrong with them anymore. They were sitting there with their pendulums, okay? And so the next day I'd get a phone call. Hey, Tony, I had a question that I asked, and I said, yeah. I said, did you do it right? Show me yes, show me no. And in my work, show me balance, show me imbalance, right? Back and forth, circles. They say, I asked the question 17 times and I got 4 different answers. And I'd say, oh, why did you feel the need to answer the question 17 times? And it's because of fear and doubt. And so it's the doubt part is the biggest one. And you were actually guilty as you talked of it.
Yeah.
It came to me. And see, that's the whole thing. So being the master of our thoughts means that any communication that comes into me is right, no matter what it is. That's trusting gut instinct immediately. Okay? Now here, I want to throw something at you because this might actually answer the question and it's not really in the same topic. Talking about angels, I wrote a whole chapter about it. It's actually a book and I got it down to a chapter. We have a guardian angel, right? That's with us from the time we're born and on. And no matter wherever we are, there's an angel for everything. There's an angel for every blade of grass to help that blade of grass grow. There's more angels than there are stars in the sky. You know, all of these things that we were taught and or not taught. Maybe I was the only one who taught that. What I discovered was we have layers to our aura, all right? And as we go out of each of these layers, and there's 7 of them, going all the way out to the 7 chakras, what's the 8th one? The 8th one is everywhere else. When you and I go, namaste, what are we saying? The higher conscience in me, my crown chakra, recognizes and honors the higher self in you. And when you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we are one. Okay? So it's like first instinct. As soon as the camera comes on, you look at me and go, oh, he doesn't look so bad. I can deal with him. All right, cool. That was your first impression. That was that crown chakra. There could be somebody sitting at the bar, you walk in and go, ooh, I can't go anywhere near. They never said anything. You don't even know what they look like. But you get a bad vibe. Bad vibes, good vibes, right?
Right.
In between us is a layer of nothing. Well, no, there's all kinds of energy. Now we know it's dark matter and dark energy, the construct of the universe. What if that construct of the universe is the angelic layer? And the layer just outside of our 7th, our 8th layer, wrote all about it, is our guardian angel. Why is our guardian angel always there? Because it's right there. How does a prayer or a spell or an intention go out? We have a thought and we let it go to the universe. Well, how does it get there? It's vibrational. Mm-hmm. So our brain is formulating something. Our heart feels it. Our gut is doing all these things. And our chakras are all lit up to this intention. And that vibrates out through the crown chakra to the universe and into the earth and out from our throat to all of animal life and everything that's living. And it gets out there and it comes back and the people that we need show up. You know, I'm late for an appointment and I go to get on the bus and I'm short a quarter and there on the ground is a quarter. Is that a lucky happen chance or is that an angelic intervention? You know, I've seen hundreds of these kind of things that happen and everyone goes, oh, that's just, you know, coincidence, happen chance, you know, you're just lucky. Or is it something out there is able to vibrate like Jell-O with all the little pieces of fruit in it? If you vibrate one, they all vibrate. Well, anything that can help fulfill that gets that vibration and it comes back. Mm-hmm. And it's trusting it. You know, trusting the instinct part. I got just a little quick funny story. I'm online when AOL was out, right? Okay, I'm on AOL and I'm looking out there and I got a message that came in and it was a woman in Chicago. I'm in Connecticut. And she says, hi, I'm so-and-so. I've got 2 children. I'm divorced. I'm poor. My kids aren't able to eat. And I heard from a friend of a cousin of the next door neighbor that you help people, so help me. And I'm looking at this going, oh my God, it was in chat. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what to tell her. You know, so I sat back and I just called in my angels. All right, I do a lot of angel work. And I said, you know, help me, give me an answer. And I had my hands on the keyboard and, you know, my eyes are closed and I'm typing and I hit send and I go, wait a minute. And I opened my eyes and I stared at the screen. It said, play the lotto. And I was signing off like, oh my God, what did I just do? How rude is that? I got to stop staying up late. You know, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And so it was 2 days later, I get a message back. She says, this is my number, call me. It's like, oh, crap. You know what? I deserve it. I'll call. So I call. And she says, you know, I looked at the screen and I was so peeved. I didn't know what to do. And I'm looking at my clock, and the little corner store was only open for 10 more minutes, and I only had $10 left. So I ran down and bought a lotto ticket, and I won $25,000.
Wow.
Thank you very much. How did you know that? I says, I didn't.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's like, all right, why can't I do that for myself? You know, and it's like these weird little things. And it's trusting immediately what you feel, because if that angelic layer, all right, if what I say is actually true, our guardian angel, that layer around us, pings the universe immediately, and it's going to ping the people that can bring that answer in, no matter what it is, even if it's while you're scanning somebody. You know, help me find what it is. You know, why am I working on their big toe when they're talking about their elbow? You know, it's these kind of things. I don't know, I'm making it up. And, you know, and it's trusting it implicitly, without question, without any doubt or fear. And it just keeps coming back to that, you know. And I've spent 20 years writing and researching this, and it still keeps coming back to the same thing. Having a resolve too bold to doubt, believing that you can, and knowing that you can without doubt or fear. You know, we're brought up with doubt and fear. Look at school. I mean, when we were kids, you know, it was all about fear. And you know, even in religion, it was all fear based. No matter what the religion was, you were afraid you were going to do this or you're going to go here. And, you know, so fear became a part of it. And then as we grow up, we think to ourselves, that can't be quite right. You know, maybe people didn't answer that angel question because there's something else that down here is saying something's not quite right about these winged things that fly around and get in the way of the car that's about to hit me. It must be something else, but they won't go any further than that. Right. You know, so it kind of got me thinking on the route I was going. So I don't know if I even answered your question, but there you go. It
doesn't matter. I can't even remember what the question was. So
well, there you go.
It's all good. So
but it's getting out of your head. From what your question was.
So we are kind of approaching the end of our time. So let us know about your special offer, because you had mentioned it, and let us know a little bit about that. And the link will be below this interview. So we'll be putting that underneath. So go ahead and tell people what it's all about.
Well, in both the books that I have out, I talk about these 3 guided meditations, and really what they are is an enhancement to chapters within my writings. And the first one is Master of Your Thoughts, which is a short 15-minute relaxation. It's good for putting people to sleep. My kids were the ones who told me to do it. They said, you know, when I talk, I just put people to sleep. You know, but it's a guided meditation where I go through relax this, and go all the way to the toes in relaxation. And that starts the healing process, is getting out of our head. Are we the master of our thoughts? No. You know, it's obsessive thinking, it's doubt, it's fear, it's stress. So it's a stress breaker. It's getting rid of stress to get rid of pain. If you have a pain that you're trying to get rid of, and everybody's trying to heal from something, this is what it's all about. You know, how do we heal? Well, you can't be living in stress mode. You got to be in rest and digest mode. And that's the whole thing. How do we get out of that fight or flight? And that's what the first meditation is all about. The second one is called Creating Sacred Space. And so when you're getting into that inner self, what we were talking about, that inner consciousness, what I have people do in my meditation is create a place in their mind for them to go. Carrie, if you can go anywhere in the world, where would it be? Would it be in the woods with a clearing? Would it be up on a mountain? Would it be by the ocean? Would it be in front of a waterfall? What would be there? Would it be trees, fields of flowers, you know, maybe a dragon? Mythical, mystical, magical, it doesn't matter. It's your imagination. It's your sacred space. Create it. And so this is what the whole meditation is about, is creating this sacred space and being there, seeing yourself there and planting yourself there, and then bringing in the things that you want. You can't bring your pets because you're going to have to take care of them and feed them. There's no other people there. You are the creator. You are the god or goddess of this place. And by doing that, you're giving yourself a place to go to in your mind. Now you can meditate. You know, you relax, you create a sacred space, and then you do the work. You can't just go do the work because you're worried about the phone bill, or, you know, so-and-so is going to show up and, you know, repossess the car, or, you know, the kid's out, you know, and it's 5 minutes after they're supposed to be back, whatever. You know, being a parent of 3 and the oldest of 8 kids, I can go on with a list forever with that. But these are what these meditations are all about. They're all standalones. The third one is called chakra synchronicity. And what I do is I go through creating sacred space, getting out of your head, and then going through each of the chakras. And I talk about the right of each chakra. You know, the I am chakra, the root chakra. I deserve to be here. You know, heart. I'm trying to think of them. I'm forgetting them because I don't have them written in front of me. Is the right to love and be loved, the right to hear and speak truth, the throat chakra, right? The right to know, the right to see, rather, the right to know. And I go through all the rights with it, but it's the building blocks of being able to get yourself in a mindset to bring in your own healing energies, to be able to get into that alchemist within you, that voice in your head that you don't listen to. You know, we got so many voices, and it shuts everything else out, and you go to that sacred space. And I had people come back to me and said, you know, Tony, I started on a beach, and then it was a desert island, and then the island had a mountain, and then it had a river, and I decided it needed a waterfall, and behind the waterfall was a crystal cave, and in the crystal cave there was a dragon. I said, what'd you do with the dragon? I said, I wrote it. You know, so I'd go to another place, and if I had something else to deal with, and they'd build on it within time. I created a castle in my mind back 30 years ago, and have put suits of armor in it and pictures on the walls. And, you know, every time I go back there, it becomes such a you know, an alter reality that the mind believes it. Whatever the mind sees, it believes. You know, it's not about what we see and hear. It's what the mind believes. Our mind is the healer. Our mind is also the unraveler. We can get ourselves into a tailspin because of not getting out of our minds.
Right.
So
Awesome.
there you go.
Thank you so very much for being here on the Awaken Life Expo, Tony. It's been an honor and a pleasure. We are out of time. Folks, please do take Tony up on his offer. Click on the link, you know, engage with him. And thank you so much for joining us here on the Awaken Life Expo.
Really a pleasure. I had such a good time with this.
Me too. Thank you. Right. Time just flies, doesn't it? Thank you so very much. And I look forward to getting to know you more in future, you know, endeavors. So have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too. Namaste.
Namaste.